LifeLock, how can I help?
The IRS said I
filed my return,
but I haven't.
1 in 4 tax-paying Americans has paid the price of identity fraud.
What do I do?
My refund, though. I'm freaking out.
Don't worry, I can fix this.
LifeLock fixes identity theft guaranteed and gets your money back with up to $3 million in coverage.
I'm so relieved.
No problem. I'll be with you every step of the way.
1 in 4 was a fraud-paying American. Not anymore. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
The Larry Kudlow Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
So one of the other great stories, it really isn't, but it's a big news story, is this whole business about 4 or 5 hour lines in the airports because TSA is not getting paid. And ICE was called in to help out. They've done a good job, by the way. In fact, they rescued a 1-year-old child, despite what Democrats are saying that they're going to murder people. But the Senate passed a bill that funded most of DHS, but not ICE, not Customs, not their administrative backups. The House rejected it, and the House has passed its own bill. I don't know what's in that bill. They passed it last night, and that leaves us, with this. The system's still broken. The senators have gone home. I don't know if they're coming back or not. One person that's knows about this and has been deeply involved and is going to help us out is an old friend, Senator Ron Johnson from the great state of Wisconsin, a former businessman, a good numbers guy. So, okay, Senator Johnson, first of all, thank you for helping us on a Saturday. I know you had to move some things around. You're very kind. Why don't you start out and give us the lay of the land, where you see this thing?
Sure. Well, let me kind of lay the table for this by first saying I listened to your excellent interview with General Jack Keane.
Oh, thank you.
And the outrage he was expressing of the Democrats' knee-jerk opposition to doing what had to be done because their presidents coddled Iran, funneled hundreds of billions of dollars into Iran, allowed them to gain strength, to come to the brink of being able to threaten our homeland. And again, Democrats for years have been saying, we can't allow Iran to become a nuclear power. Well, you finally have a president with the balls to make sure that wouldn't happen, and they immediately oppose what he's trying to do while we have the finest among us in the field risking their lives to keep this nation safe. It's outrageous, okay? So take that, and now let's describe how even more outrageous it is for their opposition to fund the very agencies that are tasked with cleaning up their mess. They opened up the border, allowing millions of people to flood into this country, unvetted. I mean, there could be Iranian sleeper cells in this, okay? So, again, America didn't like that. We elected President Trump to clean up their mess. And rather than helping us clean up their mess, what they've done instead is they've trained activists, they've trained them to obstruct justice, encourage them then to put themselves into harm's way, knowing that some of them would get harmed. Well, 2 of them got killed. What Democrat has ever expressed sympathy for the families of the victims of crimes committed by illegal immigrants? They don't, but instead they created 2 martyrs, and they're using those martyrs now as their excuse to not fund the agencies that will keep Americans safe or try and keep Americans safe. It is outrageous. So the first point I want to make is this is entirely the Democrats' doing. The reality we all have to face, though, is the legacy media is pretty much the communication arm of the Democrat Party. So the Democrats can do this. They can obstruct the funding of ICE and CBP and all DHS. They can keep a couple 100,000 people from getting a paycheck. They don't care about that. But they can do that with impunity because the media will never hold them accountable, never put pressure on them to do it. I mean, if the tables were turned and Republicans were blocking funding DHS and TSA, we would be excoriated in the mainstream media. We wouldn't have done it as a result. But Democrats can get away with it. And so John Thune and Senate Republicans were faced with the reality that they simply will not fund DHS or CBP and ICE. So we did what we could do. pass funding for everybody else so they get paid, and then move as rapidly as possible to a reconciliation bill, which we will fund. I mean, from my standpoint, we ought to fund DHS for at least through fiscal year 2029. So Democrats can never use this as leverage in their political games. I mean, that's what we're trying to do. You know, again, this is blown up in everybody's face. Unfortunately, the circulating funding squad is not to work here. We need to get together on the same page, and as I said, move rapidly to a reconciliation bill that will fund all of this. Again, it's Democrats that are opposed to funding CBP and ICE, not Republicans. We funded them to a certain extent during the first reconciliation bill. We have to finish the job as rapidly as possible with a very focused, rapidly passed reconciliation bill here. The sooner the better.
Well, I am very much in favor of that and have been promoting that on the TV show and the radio. I had John Kennedy on, Senator Kennedy, who for quite some time has been promoting reconciliation. Let me just ask you, I want to come back to Reconciliation Center, just on the nuts and bolts now. So the House has its bill and the Senate has its bill. How do we resolve this? Because I guess the president's executive order to move some money around and pay TSA, that's going to go through. Is that correct?
Right. He's repurposing funds. I actually spoke to him a couple of days about that he had that capability, so he followed through on that. But again, those funds will run out. We passed about $10 billion of a fund to be used to secure the border, and he's using those monies. But again, that's what he's also using to fund ICE and CBP, those components that are actually being funded right now. So that money will run out. So we don't have a whole lot of time here.
And can I ask you one other thing, just to clarify? The one big beautiful bill, the reconciliation bill that was signed in the middle of 25, that had money for the so-called frontline ICE and CBP, Customs and Border Patrol. That the money was there for that. I don't know if it was designated precisely, but there was money, and that's what they're surviving on. They're getting paid, and they're doing what they need to do. Is that right?
Yeah, it's complicated because there's two different sections. Some funds like new hires, bonus pay, that kind of stuff. Then we have $10 billion that can pretty well be used for what the president wants it to be used for. That's what's funding most of this right now. Again, it's only $10 billion. Right. So that can last, depending on how many agencies we have to fund with that $10 billion, that runs out sooner rather than later. So we have to get back. So, what the Senate did and what the House is all outraged about is we took their bill that funds it all, which again, Republicans voted for repeatedly. Democrats voted no. We couldn't shove it down their throat. So we took their bill and we just removed the funding for CBP and ICE because that's the only thing the Democrats would allow to pass. But they're all, again, we didn't defund these things. It's just like that was the only thing we could pass. What the House did as a result of that, they just passed us what they're considering a clean CR, keeping funding for all of DHS as it was in 2025, which, by the way, is what Joe Biden and Democrats voted for once. So just a clean CR. Unfortunately, that will not pass the Senate. So we're at an impasse right now. Right. And from my standpoint, the only solution in the short term is have the House pass the Senate bill, recognize that same reality. We don't like the reality either, but that's the only thing Democrats would vote for. Pass that, and then, again, I've talked to Jody Arrington, Senator Graham. I'm on the Budget Committee. We need to rapidly do the instructions for budget reconciliation, and I've heard it's going to take 6 weeks. It doesn't have to take 6 weeks.
No.
So get this done in a couple of weeks. There's no reason why I couldn't. Now, we're going to have to go through vote-a-rama, all that crap on the Senate floor, but fine. Get it done. Focus it. Don't add things to it. Okay. By the way, I'm a fiscal conservative. There's no need to pay for this one because this is just an appropriation through a reconciliation process, which honestly, the other thing I'm promoting is we need to have appropriation bills that just fund Republican priorities. When our appropriators can't pass the bills on time prior to September 30th, we need to be ready to do a reconciliation appropriation process to fund all of government with Republican priorities. That would, quite honestly, give leverage to our Republican appropriators to, do deals with Democrats, to do it on time through regular order. But if they're not willing to play ball, then we need to go ahead, use reconciliation for all the appropriation accounts, including defense.
I agree.
Okay?
But let me come back. I'm with you. But President Trump's executive order to pay TSA, hopefully TSA staff will return to work and so forth and maybe ameliorate some of the backups in these airports. But nothing else going to get funded. And that troubles me enormously, Senator.
Correct.
I
know. But Democrats refuse to give us the right to do it.
I understand. I'm just saying, I'm just pointing it out. Yes, I know that the blame is on the Democrats. But I would say, it's Coast Guard and it's FEMA. One of the things I keep saying is the cyberspace security. Iran is a practitioner of cyber attacks. So is China. And here we are in wartime, and that's not getting funded. So will the Senate stay in recess? Whatever it is, Easter recess for I don't know how long. How long is it? 2 weeks? In other words, nothing's going to happen for a couple weeks.
Well, we could come back, but Democrats will continue to block it because they can do it with impunity. So the only way to right now fund all the other components other than CBP and ICE, Coast Guard, CIS, is for the House to pass the Senate bill. I mean, again, I don't want to. I'm not blaming the House. I understand their outrage. We are equally as outraged. We're just recognizing reality that we can't force Democrats to vote for this because the media is not putting pressure on them. So
no, they won't.
To get the other components done, the House really has to pass the Senate bill and then move to reconciliation.
So I would take the reconciliation. Let's go to reconciliation for a moment. 50 votes plus the vice president. Okay. I'd put everything in there, Senator. I would put whatever the War Department wants, the number out there is $200 billion. Give it to them. Okay? All of the DHS stuff, all the appropriations. I would put the SAVE Act in, okay, the Voting Rights Act in, because it's going to require money. It's going to require money to enforce voter appropriate citizenship and real ID cards and so forth. I would put it in there. People say you can't do that. I've had a couple of Republican senators on the show tell me you can't do that. I don't agree. It's certainly worth a college try. The parliamentarian may rule against us, but nonetheless, I think you really have to think creatively, and it will require money, and there'll have to be offsets to meet at least the Byrd rule or part of the Byrd rule. But I would put the whole thing in there. That's what I would do.
Are you stuck staring at your W-2? Are tax refund worries holding you back? You probably have FOMO, the fear of messing up. The fix? Using TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They find every credit and deduction to help you get every refund dollar you deserve. Or your money back. It's time to overcome your fear of messing up and get your taxes done right. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
Well, again, there are certainly things you can do, like financial inducements that can get through the parliamentarian, and there are certainly elements of the SAVE Act, and I don't disagree that we can put that into reconciliation as well. Again, to get these agencies funded, keeping this as simple as possible to pass it rapidly, the more you add, the more complex it gets. So, again, my preference is keep it simple. But, again, I would, in this one, I would fund all of DHS through fiscal year 2029. Mm-hmm. And just really stick with the Democrats. Say, guys, we're going to do it alone. This is the way we can do it alone. Okay? The other thing is, I think you well know, I've been writing a couple of columns that, again, I've seen enough. The Senate is horribly broken. I don't know how it could get much worse. So I've been advocating for ending the filibuster. And again, I think every conservative recognizes that if we're in the minority again, and that'll happen, we'd like to have the filibuster to block all the socialist crap the Democrats would pass. The split right now in the Republican Party in the Senate, we all agree that we'd love to have that in the minority, but there are those of us who just recognize that Democrats, as soon as they can, they will end the filibuster. They will do it as soon as it's advantageous for them. We've got a pretty good size of contingent in our conference who wants to hold on to that filibuster if we're in the minority, who actually believe that Democrats will not end the filibuster. I just think that's a fantasy. And that's currently the split. Now, at the same time, go back to nominations. We did not have the votes to change the rules on nominations in the Republican conference until Democrats got so obstructionist, so obnoxious that all 53 Republicans said, no, we got to change the rules. We can't allow this to happen. I think we may be approaching the moment when Republicans in the Senate realize, okay, as much as we may want to maintain the filibuster in case we're ever in the minority, when Democrats are literally playing with the lives of Americans, with the security of our homeland, and they're willing to play those political games, we've got to act. And the filibuster once and for all. By the way, we've rewrote it already. It's no longer in effect for nominations. I mean, just reconciliation process. There's no filibuster there. You have to go through an awful votorama, but again, we can do it with 51 votes. We're going to do it here with DHS. My recommendation is let's do it with all the appropriations if Democrats won't play ball. So I mean, the filibuster is going to at some point in time go the way of the dinosaur. Democrats will absolutely do it. At this moment of danger, at this moment of such obnoxious obstruction by Democrats, it's probably time to end it now. We just need to convince more of my Republican colleagues in the Senate to agree with that position. Again, reluctantly.
Yes.
I don't think any conservative is happy with this chain of events. But again, this is Democrats once again pushing us to do this.
All right. Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, thank you, sir. Thank you for helping us. I appreciate it very much, really. Talk soon.
Take care.
All right. All right, folks, we're going to take a break, and we're going to do something after the break, but I got to figure out what we're going to do. I know John Carney is out there. We're going to work some miracles anyway. I'm Kudlow. Stay with us. We're going to do some economic work. We'll be right back.
The Larry Kudlow Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.